In 2016, when news of food shortages in the IDP camps was reported, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria passed a motion to investigate alleged humanitarian crisis in the IDP camps in the northeast of the country as a result of the Boko Haram insurgency. The 10-man ad hoc committee, headed by Senator Shehu Sani, soon began its work, which essentially focused on the activities of the Presidential Initiative for the Northeast, PINE. It must be noted from the onset that PINE's core mandate is not to address food supplies to the IDP camps, but rather to spearhead issues of reconstruction and restoration of destroyed public and private infrastructure like schools, police stations, barracks, hospitals, roads, and government buildings. To achieve this mandate, PINE advertised bids for contracts for the different rehabilitation jobs. Among these is the clearing of the Kamadugu River Channel and simple irrigation. The idea was to address a problem that had affected farming, fishing, and ordinary day-to-day living for the people for over 30 years. It was in realization of this core mandate, therefore, that PINE awarded this contract, which eventually the Senate committee made the central focus of its mandate rather than investigate humanitarian crisis in the IDP camps. For about 30 years, communities living along the Kamadugu River Basin have been subjected both to flooding and shortage of water. Communities that lived upstream suffered flooding, while those downstream suffered lack of water. This situation was a product of an invasive plant called taifa grass, which blocked the river channels over 30 years ago, thus causing hardship on the people. Due to the hardship caused by the blockage, villages have been abandoned, farming was unsustainable, fishing was disrupted, and water transportation became a grudging business. For over 30 years, communities along this river channel have made several appeals to governments, both at the state and federal levels, and ended up with just promises, until 2016, when PINE was approached and it responded to their plight. A contract to this effect was awarded to Justmont Technologies Limited to clear up 165 kilometers of invasive plants along the Kamadugu River channels. Let's get the details of the contract from the contractor.
I was awarded with a contract of simplified village irrigation of 115 hectares and manual removal of invasive plant species along the river channels, and the supply of 12 aquatic engine boats, 49 locally made boats, and 115 3-inch Japanese pumping machine. I did supply everything. We even dug 115 boreholes for each hectare. We have 115 hectares. For each hectare, we'll dig a borehole, one 3-inch Japanese pumping machine, and a wiring pipes for each hectare. And we did 115 hectares. Then we did the normal manual removal of the invasive plants along the river channel, as I'll call it, a manual dredging. We cleared 165 kilometers of the manual removal of the invasive plant along the river channels.
The contract was awarded to Justmont Technologies at the cost of 272,524,356 naira to kobo, inclusive of all taxes. The choice of the project by PINE was not an accident. It was considered because of the expected impact on the people. It was to serve as a palliative measure to some of the many unemployed youth who have been attracted to Boko Haram because of joblessness. It was also to provide opportunities for many farming communities, fishermen, and local transporters who use the waterways.
This project really helps the villagers there and the IDPs, the people living in the IDP camps, because most of the work was done by the people, the men living in the IDP camps. We went to the IDP camps to get laborers that would do the work. We paid them directly, and that really helps them, and most of them up till now they've not gone back to the camp, they've not gone back to their places, because the heads of each area gave them farmlands. They are now farming rice there.
Wayannan masarori da muka wuce duk gonaki da gana kun dauka hoto na gudun hijira ne. Har ma wasu da a jeji suke kwana ma saboda kusan lokacin da muke mu ma ruwan da ya kewaye mu akwai naso ba wurin da za su zauna. Amma yanzu ruwan ya ja sun bar jejin sun koma gari. Sun samu wuraren da muka ba su filaye da zama da 'ya'yansu da komai. Duk wani ayyuka da gani suna yi su suke.
One of the IDPs who has newly settled in one of the communities and is enjoying free farmland given to him by the community has this to say.
Ni ina kamin kifi nan kuma ina noma. Insha Allah.
Yaushe ka fara noma?
To noma gaskiya ba adadi ga lokaci wanda na fara noma. Ko ba gaskiya ba ko anan kake magana?
Anan nake magana.
Anan gaskiya ba na fara noma anan.
Wa baka gona ka saya?
Bula mai bani gona.
Ha kawai bula bai baka gona?
Eh.
Zaka biya ko kuma kyauta?
Wannan ai saboda jin dadin zama ne.
We took about 3,600 thereabout laborers because the time duration was too short, and because of the rainy season we had to use much more power on the laborers. We take, for example, a kilometer which comprises of 2 groups, and each group's 40 people. So 40 people will work on a kilometer for like 3-4 days before they will finish 1 kilometer. Then another 50 different people, that's 2 groups again, that will do the packing. After cutting, the second group will come and pack to another destination.
The removal of the invasive plants along the Komadougou River Basin covers 165 kilometers stretching across 4 local government areas. Malam Bello Abdullahi, Chairman, Komadougou Yobe Basin Wetland Development Initiative, explains the complexities of the river channel.
I want you to critically look at the actual place in the map. This is the Hadejia River. It is having little or no problem from here. Then this is the area in questions. We have tributaries here, but they all end up linking to River Yobe, which eventually end up in Lake Chad. It drains into Lake Chad. Okay, in this there are three major tributaries. There is the Marma Channel, there is the Burum Gana Channel, this is the old Hadejia River. There is also Kapin Hausa along the base. So in all these areas we have this problem of threats by the invasive grasses. They prevented us from making harmonious use of the resources that God has endowed to us. This blockage caused what I told you, that is, prevents us from our economic activities. It even prevented motorists sometimes from having access to other important towns. So trade itself has been deterred because of these problems. So there have been roads that have been closed, there have been towns that have been displaced, there had been that is communities that are settled, they are already displaced, all as a result of these blockages. Because like said earlier on, most of this place is a Chad formation. There is little or very little difference between the riverbed and the floodplain. That was why it is called the wetlands. Because if there is any blockage, the river has no distinct distance from the land. So it will just disperse into the communities. That was why most of our communities have been displaced if there are floodings. So as a result of this, this is where we ask the government to intervene. This is the Marma Channel. It has been flooded before because it is the one that has carried most of the flood. And it is here that we got most of the flood because it is the one that is carrying all the waters. The waters diverted to it and overflooded all the areas that are here. The Burum Gana Channel at its base, it has flooded. If you go to its end, there is less water. In Old Hadejia, there is also no water due to the problems here because the water has been forced to divert to overflow the Marma Channel. So that was why we have these problems. Now that the intervention carried place, The water is now free. It went down. It drains up to Lake Chad now. Even people in the Lake Chad Basin Commission used to ask us what has been happening. We told them that it is as a result of this intervention that these notorious grasses have been taken care of. That was why the water has been drained. Before now, even the Lake Chad Basin Commission have given us some grants to make an effort. It has not been like this before. The effort has not been enough to make the water now drain to Lake Chad. Even if you go down to Borno, to Lake Chad, people now knew that something had happened. The water is now flowing, draining down to the Chad Basin. This intervention has even benefited even the areas that have not even known what is being done here. And most of us, up to Lake Chad, we are farmers, herders, and fishermen. So you all know that more than about 6% of Nigerian fishes are all caught here in these areas. So it is surprising that people will complain that this action has, thing has not impacted on us economically, socially, and what have you.
As part of the contract, a water control gate was also built along the river channel. Malam Bello Abdullahi explains its significance.
This structure you see is a structure that helps control so many conflicts inter-community between one community and another, because they have been coming here, they are trying to even clash due to the fact that some assume that this place is being controlled by some other people, and that the inhabitants of this area deliberately refuse to close this because they wanted some farmlands of the other people to be flooded. So it helps solve so many intercommunal conflicts.
In about 30 years of lack of proper work on this river, communities have been displaced. Farming has suffered. Fishermen working hard with very little to show. Herders have had to look elsewhere. Some community members explain what the situation was before the river was cleared.
Sunana Umar Muhammad Likori, ni ne ciyaman gada na masu kwale-kwale na fito.
Na'am.
A nan shaida muka kai shekara 4 baya. Fito muke marawa gubusun kabak. Na dauko mai ciki za ta haihu a jirgin ta haihu. Kafin mu zo nan bakin gada mu kai ta Hadeja a jirgin ta haihu. Na dauko wata wanda shaida muka zo nan muka Hadeja a can Allah mata rasuwa. Mun dauko an kai an haifu lafiya kalau.
Kana so ka ce min duk wannan illa ce da wannan ciyawar ta wannan yanki?
Wannan na ga ma kwarai da gaske.
Wannan ruwa yakan dami ya area nan tamu. Alhali gonakan da muke tare da su da wani yana da gona 10, wani yana da shama. To Allah da ikon sa yanzu gonakan wani bai wuce gona 1 ko 2 ba, wasu ma sun koma gonakan aro. Ko ba da haka garin da muke zaune ma ta ko ina ruwa ya kiwaye mu. Alhali yanzu hakan nan garin nan dalilin ambaliyar ruwa dan damuna ta shigo ba mu da hanyar da mota za ta shigo sai da babura, wani lokaci da amalanke, jakuna mukan fidda kayan mu. To amma Allah ya sa akan yi irin waɗannan ayyuka, muna kyauta zaton Allah ya alƙawarinsa duk waɗannan abubuwa hanyoyin mu za su buɗe kuma garuruwan mu za mu zauna lafiya. Baya da haka yanzu a cikin garin nan za ka tona shadda ba yadda za ka haura tsawon mutum, wani gun ma ba zai ma kai tsawon mutum ba za ka tadda ruwa. Duk kuma waɗannan ambaliya su suka jawo mana. Ginin nukan mu damuna yana faɗuwa yana naso ta ƙasa ga kanwa, sai ka ga gini ka gina bana shekara 1-2 ya lalace sai dai ka sake sabon gini sakamakon duk ambaliyan shi ya jawo mana haka.
The problem of these river communities is that some of them ended up with too much water, often leading to flooding because of the typha grass that blocks the flow of the river. Communities at the other end of the river ended up with no water flowing at all. Justmont Technologies Limited was contracted to open up the river channels, remove the invasive grass and all blockages, and allow water flow freely through 165 kilometers.
The typha grass menace came on River Komadugu River. River Komadugu, the Yobe to Borno axis is the downstream. Kano Jigawa is upstream. Now the problem came all the way from Kano Jigawa and then down to the downstream. So to have an effective control of the grass, you must to some extent work on the upstream before coming to the downstream. We would have been extended up to Kano, but unfortunately due to the nature of the farm, because it's specifically for the northeast, so we commenced from a village that east in Chigago State called Manama. So we started from there, then downstream.
At the completion of the job, what do the communities feel about it?
Now on Ungud Lake, before this intervention, even the manual boats can hardly manipulate their ways around here. Fishermen find it very difficult to move around to access their fishing gear. And now you see the motorized boat were on. A lot of economic activities are happening. With the opening of this way, you can go as far as Likori, which is about more than 100 kilometers from here.
People have left our villages to go to urban centers because of lack of water. And it is recently we were able to get this water. And now we are happy because for 30 years, we have been suffering. For 30 years we have been suffering.
Well, specifically, I'm glad that government has now regard farming as one of the source of living. So it has, in its effort, it has provided me with a wash borehole and machines so that I can improve in my production. Now I have improved because at least I have now extended my farming to about 5 hectares.
Har ga Allah aiki yayi kyau. Da kuma dama kamar yadda kuka faɗa cewa wannan shine matsalar mu musamman ma a nan yankin da muke. Domin kashi 90 daga cikin 100 na mutanen mu manoma ne. Kuma mun dogara da wannan ruwa domin da muke ban ruwa da rani da damuna. To he kai matsayin da kwata-kwata ma ba ma samun ruwan. Ya kai matsayin da jama'ar mu za su fito cikin dare misalin karfe 3 ko 4 su dana inji a gona suna aiki. Wanda a yanzu yadda aka samu wannan aikin insha Allah ruwa dai kowane lokaci zai wadace mu har ga Allah. Domin mun yi ta koke-koke a baya. Misalin kamar su wakilanmu da suke gwamnati da sauransu. Amma kuma wannan kungiya irin abubuwan da kuka yi alhamdulillah mu kun yi mana.
Alhamdulillah domin a zashirin gaskiya tun da ake gyare-gyaren wannan kogi namu gaskiya ban taba ganin aiki da aka masa irin wannan aiki da aka dauko yin sa yanzu ba. Gaskiya kuma wannan aiki da aka dauko aiki yana kyau domin ni tun da nake gyaran kogi nan da an zo an yafi so abin da bi. Ko mota da aka dauko take wani aikin wallahi tallahi bata yi wannan aiki da ake na hannu ba. Tunda aiki ne ake gyara kogi ga nan gaba da gaba. Gaskiya ba abin da zamu ce sai dai godiya.
We are fully satisfied with what the fine has done. We have been struggling for the clearance of this channel for us to have a smooth flow of water since when I came. That was in 2005. We have been in Abuja more than 20 times on just for us to have government to clear the channel so that we'll have smooth flow. Majority of our citizens are agrarian, are farmers. When I was small, we have 27 species of fish in this community. Today, we don't have 16 because of the blockage and siltation. Several people have made several attempts. I know within the community, we make contributions. We make a manual clearance, what doesn't make any impact. In 2010 or 11, state government gave some money to Chad Basin Development Authority to do some clearance. They have done, but it did not make an impact until one fine make this clearance from Hadeja. Most of the blockage are in Hadeja, but we are the beneficiaries. And it passed through Yobe, Borno, Niger to Lake Chad. 25 years back,
River Yobe used to make 1.7 contribution to Lake Chad. Today it doesn't because of siltation and blockage. So Fine have done a remarkable job, and we are feeling the impact. We have benefited from what Fine has done. What I want our people to do is, when you are being elected, come back and ask your people, what do they want? They are in a better position to tell you what they want. These boats given to us by Fine, we are using it in two ways. People will transport their goods and services. During the rainy season, there is what we call in our normally meetings unreachable. The boats have given us the opportunity to reach the unreachable in terms of primary health care. So we are using these boats. They gave us just for transportation, but we are using it for two things: to transport those that are sick, pregnant women, to reach a community health that is nearer to them by boat.
Today, farmers are happily back to their farms. Fishing is booming, and water is once more a viable means of transport. The economic transformation can be seen in the people. The river is now flowing freely, and for the first time in 30 years, the Kamadugu River is once again contributing to the recharging of the Lake Chad. Despite the accomplishment attributed to this project by the communities and the Lake Chad Basin, the Senate, in its preliminary report, refused to mention the other aspects of this contract, which included the clearing of 115 hectares of farmland, the digging of 115 boreholes in the farmlands, the installation of irrigation pipes to the boreholes, the supply of 115 3-inch water pumps to each beneficiary of the cleared hectare of land. The contract also included the supply of 49 locally made boats and 12 aquatic engine boats, a project vehicle, and the clearing of invasive plants along 165 kilometers of the Kamadugu River channel. Rather, the Senate report simply described the project as a contract for the cutting of grass at an IDP camp. This description, understandably, provoked anger and revolt in all patriotic Nigerians, especially when the amount of over 200 million naira was said to have been used in the grass cutting contract at an IDP camp. Was this a fair description of the project?